Holy deconstruction, analog, and parody to the Justice League Batman. The Boys. We just got done with it. We're giving you the review. Let's get into it.
Hello, boys and girls. My name is Billy Butcher. As you know, we live in a world of superheroes. But what you might not know is that superheroes ain't always nice. Example, you might be walking along the street one day, and a suit might run past you at superhero speed.
Get up! Get up! Get up! Get up!
What's up, Universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. I'm one of your hosts, as always, C-Dubs, and as you guys can see, I'm riding solo on this video. Hey, guys, we just got done, me and the wife just got done watching the Amazon original, The Boys, which was inspired by Garth Ennis's the book that out-preachered the preacher, if you will, The Boys. And this is a graphic novel, but the definition of graphic novel, if you will, if you know, you have The Watchmen on one end, and I think it's bookended probably by The Boys, in my opinion, when it comes to just out there stories, taking the real world and how people really are and just infusing it with the science fiction of superheroes, if you will. I think those are two of the most important stories. Of course, one is, you know, considered far more classic than the other, but these are two that I think that really stand out on their own. But we're not here to talk about the pages here today. We're actually here to talk about the Amazon original show, which was brought to us hugely in part to Seth Rogen. And
The Boys takes place in a world where superheroes are egomaniacal, sociopathic, godlike people. The show really explores, like, what would these people be like if they had unlimited power?
And I gotta say, man, thank you so much for bringing this to us. Now, if you're a big fan of the book, I can definitely see where you may have some issues with the show, or you may not like the changes or things to that nature. But the point and purpose of this story, I feel, has always been to kind of tell the story of life and how people are living in society in the time that book was created. So obviously this show coming out many years later, there are definitely hot button topics and issues that we deal with in everyday life here today. Just for one, in fact, the social media aspects of things, okay, definitely changes the way we all conduct life.
Here comes the A-Train! My man, how you doing? Look, I brought you something.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh my God, turn that off.
Life. Obviously, you guys are sitting here watching us here on YouTube. This was something not really that big, 10, 15 years ago. Yes, it was around, but it was in no way, shape, or form how it is today, where this is quickly being the number one source of entertainment for everyone worldwide. So again, this is an interesting take, that there is definitely some differences, but I don't want to say or make you think that this is any reason not to go and watch this show, because I think you would be doing yourself a big disservice. But guys, as always, man, I'm going to try to give you the good, the bad, and the badass, top it off with a score, and let you know if this is something you should go and see, and if you don't have Amazon, if you should borrow your friend's account, or if you should just pay for it yourself, or however you can get your hands on it, if this is a show you should get your hands on. Now, this show is starring Karl Urban. No, he plays the Butcher. This is a story about basically a revenge tale on his end, and we follow the story a lot through his eyes, as well as another character by the name of Hugh, who is played by Jack Quaid. Now, Jack Quaid is very good in this show. He's not only one of the good parts, I think he's actually one of the badass parts of the show as well. However, though, the more I saw this guy, this may be the first movie or show that I actually experienced his the way of his acting, and I just kept on seeing the actor that played Chekhov in the reboot to the Star Trek series, Anton Yovich, I think his name was. My dog is having a dream over there. Mikey, it's okay. Mikey's doing better, Universe. Thank you so much. But back to the task at hand. So these two guys end up kind of finding their way to each other. And I don't want to spoil too much of the shock value because that's a big part of it and some of the humor. And this is definitely not a show for everybody. There is nudity, nothing too crazy or vulgar in that area. There's a lot of insinuation and you know what's happening, but you don't necessarily see like penises and boobs flying around. I think the most you're really going to get for the most part is just ass shots. So, but there's definitely a ton of violence and a good fair share of gore.
Watch your learn, son. Hey.
So this is definitely not for the faint of heart. This is definitely not for the queasy, and this is definitely not for, I would say, anyone under 13, unless you have a mature child or you're watching it with them to explain to them that this is not reality or whatever the case may be. Now, this show also follows the Seven, who are an allegory, a spoof almost at times, and definitely a deconstruction of the Justice League proper.
Hello, I'm Madeline Stillwell, Senior Vice President of Hero Management at Vought International. Our portfolio of superheroes has grown exponentially since our humble beginnings back in 1944. From Soldier Boy to the Seven, we provide the world with the safety, service, and the super it deserves.
Now, some of the characters in this do take on different names and features and looks and different races, if you will, than from the comic book as well. But they generally have the Seven down for the most part. One of which is really not focused on at all, and that is the Martian Manhunter character. And unfortunately, it seems like even in deconstruction of A Tale of the Justice League, Martian Manhunter gets the short changed, if you will, or the short end of the stick, because he seems to always be missing, in my opinion. He'll make the team, and then all of a sudden, before you know, you'll blink and he's off the team again, and I don't get it because he's one of the coolest characters ever made. But we have an allegory for Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, and Batman. Those are the ones we focus on the most. We also have an invisible character as well, and he, unfortunately, I'll spoil this, he kind of loses his life early on in the show, and that's what sets up the chain of events of Hugh and the Butcher becoming somewhat of a team to take down these superheroes. Because in this world, the superheroes are not heroes by any stretch of the imagination. They're celebrities. They're treated as such. They have multi-billion-dollar companies and publicists and hairstylists and makeup artists and people who write the scripts for them and people who handle their social media accounts, and it's just this huge conglomerate of basically how life is now.
How many times do I have to tell you that A-Train needs to be scripted? Right. When he does not have a script, this is what happens.
I'm on it. I'm so sorry. It will not happen again.
We follow the Kardashians and all these people and all this nonsense, and it's just for better or worse, sometimes what we absorb ourselves into tends to start to corrupt us, and this is the same with them. They are the biggest stars in the world. Now, they do handle, actual, sometimes real life events, but most of the time, since they're not actually trained to deal with them, like a soldier or a police officer, a firefighter, a first responder, paramedic, whatever the case may be, these guys just can't seem to handle most of the situations that they're in. They just seem to handle them straight up with their powers, and obviously, if you're dealing with a normal human, and I have powers, you try to punch me, you're probably going to break your hand. Or you annoy me, I'm going to shoot you with my laser beams, cut you in half. It's just kind of how it goes. So they're not really trained. They don't know how to handle the situation. And we follow the Homelander, who is the allegory of Superman. He is the leader of the Seven, but he's just, and when I say leader, he's not. He's just the most powerful. Everyone is afraid of him. He is basically what Superman, unfortunately, probably would have turned into in real life if he had not been raised by the Kents and not raised by the government. Red Sun could be considered how he would be if he was not raised by the Kents as well, but raised more by the government. But this would be, hey, this is who he is, all this power. He's just a jerk. He takes what he wants. He doesn't accept no for an answer. Anything like that. So he's just the definition of a terrible human being. And I would definitely say that if at any point in time, okay, and he's played by Anthony Starr, if they're going to reboot or bring back the G.I. Joes, I want him to play Duke. This dude looked like Duke the entire time to me. He's got the square jaw. He had almost like a flat head. I was like, this is Duke, and it needs to happen, Universe.
I'm the world's greatest superhero. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Also, when I'm talking about people who should be playing, I think the person who's playing Starlight should be maybe considered for a young Sue Storm moving forward in the MCU if they make a Fantastic Four film. But that's just neither here nor there. We may do a fan casting on that here shortly, but they're definitely one of my picks that I would throw her name into the hat there, guys. But yeah, this show just takes you for a roller coaster of a ride. It goes up, it goes down. The acting is really good. The special effects are all pretty good. The bad of the show, there's only really one thing that I would say that I did not like so much of the show, and it could just have been me because of how late it was in the evening. As we were cutting down, I would say, to the last 3 episodes, it almost seemed a little rushed. Like, it's like, okay, we're getting down to the end. We need to end it here because we just got... I think they knew they were getting a second season before they even aired. So it's like, hey, we just got to get this done. We can maybe spend some more time, growing these characters. And then just to give you an example, Elizabeth Shue, who played... who was in the original Karate Kid as the love interest, she's actually like the person pulling all the strings for the superheroes. She is like the one who is in charge of the company that overlooks all their social medias and everything like that. They're trying to work their way into the government where they could start becoming billionaires, essentially. And she goes from, okay, the book is getting thrown at her for all the corruption she's caused, okay, to, oh, no, now you're pretty much in charge of the country and all of our weapons, if you will, and you're going to be the number one source, outdoing Lockheed Martin and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden something else happens to her like that, and I was just like, okay, well, good. And I gotta say, moving on, that's really all the bad that I would have to say. I really don't... if you're super religious, there may be a big section of this film or this show that you feel really uncomfortable with. That might be a bad to some people, but other than that, I can't really point out anything I did not like about this show. Now on to the badass universe. I gotta say, my favorite thing was just the realistic nature of how some of the witty banter would go back and forth. Just if I was with my friends and they were like, hey, I'm going to shove my, how long did it take you to get that joke out? How long were you working on it? And then you reply with something really witty. It was just really organic, and it felt like normal conversation a big part of the time between most of the characters. And that's not something you get very often. In fact, especially on TV, okay, you get a lot of this dialogue that just normal people wouldn't say, normal people wouldn't do. Maybe in their own homes there may be some goofy talk between a wife and a husband or something like that, but most people out in the real world don't actually express themselves in those ways, and this show doesn't do that. They're really truthful to how normal people act and how I feel. I've never truly met anyone super mega famous, if you will, that's treated me incorrectly, but the perception of once you're at a certain level, you start treating the people under you really bad, and you definitely get that feel from a lot of the and I use the term loosely, heroes here. But basically, we find out that there's this overarching plot that's going to solidify the heroes becoming part of the government, okay, by creating weapons of mass destruction, if you will, but villains, okay. And funny enough, how we don't have villains yet in the show, up until towards the very end. And it's going to be interesting to see how these heroes who are not trained on how to deal with just a guy with a gun, how they're actually going to be dealing with people with actual superpowers trying to fight against them. I'm really interested to see where the show goes. Now, the show also does a really good part, and this is a big part of the badass, where I thought something was going to happen, okay, and it didn't. It seems like it's leading you in this way. Oh, this person's going to die. This person's going to die. Oh, this person's going to do this. This person's going to... And it doesn't. And even if it does happen, it may happen somewhere else in the show, but it doesn't happen when you think it's going to happen. So it has a good way of surprising you. So, Universe, all in all, I got to give this a solid 5 stars out of 5. I loved every single minute of it for the most part. Like I said, only towards the end did I feel like they were like... oh, hey, this happened and this happened. It just, I don't know if it just didn't do a good job of showing that days or hours or weeks had passed, and it just seemed like boom, 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 boom. But guys, overall, check this out if you can. If you don't have Amazon, you need to find a way to get it. I think this show has given us a reason now to have it. Just this show alone, I think, is worth the $10 or whatever it is a month just to have it. Also, there's 2 seasons of The Tick. Unfortunately, they get canceled, but that's a really good show on there too. And Lore, which is a podcast that I love. It's a really awesome podcast. Check that podcast out. But he has his own TV show based off of the podcast on there. Basically, that talks about, you know, science fiction and horror can be really dark and scary, but what's the most scariest thing is real life. And what he does is he tells stories, and there's little vignettes of actual terrible things that have happened in the real world, as well as within folklore. So it's a really cool show. So Amazon altogether, definitely worth it just by those 3 shows alone, not to mention the discounts and everything that you would get with Amazon as well. So definitely go ahead and get that. You would think I was sponsored by them at this point, but I'm not. But guys, check it out. Let me know in the comments below. Did you see it? Did you like it? Did you read the comic? Do you like the changes between the comic and the book? Do you not? Are you just sick and tired of superheroes altogether? Because it's definitely, every time I turn around, there's something new. And me as a fan, I'm okay with it. But I know some people kind of get burned out. So let us know in the comments below, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on this video. Don't forget to Hulk smash that like button. Become a part of Earth's mightiest subscribers, guys. And until next time, I'm C-Dubs, and I'll see you in the universe. Peace.
That's what they call me. I promise that you'll never be lonely. That's what they call me. I promise that you'll never be lonely.